right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good morning to you, Rudy. My name is Claudio, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble, grateful that Rudy Adrian accepted our invitation to a show. Rudy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Claudio. It's great to be on your channel. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Well, the first thing we need to talk is about the gear. The gear to your left, your computer to the right. Feel free to show your...
Yep. I use an old Apple Macintosh computer. This is 1984, but I bought this one probably in 1989. And that's what I use for making my music. And I don't do it to be eccentric or anything. I do it because when I bought the computer and when I bought my first synthesizer, together they cost as much as a brand new car. It wasn't cheap, but it was very powerful for me. The synthesizer here, the Yamaha SY77, is capable of 16 different sounds at the same time. In fact, 32 voices and polyphony, but I've got 16 different channels of music. So it's like a 16-track tape recorder. And the Macintosh, it doesn't actually record the audio. All it does is record the MIDI notes. So it records what you play, and then you can cut and paste it. So you can do anything you want with it. You can speed it up, slow it down, transpose it. You can go into an individual note and make it a bit harder or softer, or you can move it slightly, or you can make it more legato or more staccato. You can do all kinds of things. And I do spend all day working on a piece, just adjusting all the little individual notes on it to try and make the piece right. The danger is, of course, when you've got so much power, you spend all day working on it, and by the end of the day, you've heard the piece 300 times, and you're absolutely exhausted, and it doesn't sound good anymore, and it probably isn't good anymore either. You've got to make that judgment call. But it worked for me back in 1989, and I don't see any reason to change it. I don't want to buy new gear all the time and have a whole studio. I just want to have a little simple setup. I've actually got 2 keyboards now, and they're both 16-channel. So I've got a 32-track recorder in my home studio, and that's all I need. So that works for me.
If it works, why change it, right? If you're happy with it, good for you, man. Good for you. Happy for you, man. Let's go back to the beginning of your life. Were you born like in a musical family? I mean, how old were you when you perhaps began taking, I don't know, guitar lesson or piano lesson back in the day? Or
like a lot of musicians and maybe a lot of ambient musicians, I wasn't born in a musical family. My father was a computer engineer and computer designer. He would actually build them himself. And I remember in the early 1970s, he would actually etch his own circuit boards and then put the components in and program them with machine code. And he did that as a hobbyist. And also he would sell them sometimes to factories for controlling power consumption. So he wasn't musical at all. My mother, she could play the piano a little bit. And when I was about 8 years old, we bought a piano. It's still sitting in my stepmother's house now, actually. And I took piano lessons for about a year, but it didn't really interest me because I was having to play other people's music. And I knew even then that I wanted to create my own music. And I knew it had something to do with tape recorders. You would use tape recorders and you could layer things. And I remember at school, and this is at junior school when I was sort of 7 or 8 years old, there were these kids in my class who would go away for an hour a week to recorder class. And I remember looking at them thinking, these kids learning tape recorders, they don't look like the kind of kids who'd want to learn to operate tape recorders. Of course, they were actually, it was a different recorder. It was the musical recorder they were learning. So just as well I didn't sign up for it. I wouldn't have liked that very much. But we had very few records at home. except we had, yes, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, The Sound of Music for the soundtrack to the film. And I remember a family member in Holland sent us an LP of pop music and all these pop songs. But by the time the record arrived in New Zealand, it had been broken in the mail, and most of it was broken. But my father saw, there's actually enough grooves there inside. There's probably about a track on each side. So he cut out all the broken parts, and we had this little single. It was basically an LP cut down to a single, and it was a song on each side.
Yeah.
And so finally, for the first time ever, we had pop music in the house. And one of the songs was by Donovan, who was the singer-songwriter from the 1960s and 70s. He worked with Paul McCartney and John Lennon. He taught them some guitar techniques. And he was considered back in the day, I think, sort of the competition to, some of the other singers. Can't remember offhand. But anyway, he was famous in the day. And the song was Celia of the Seals, which is not a well-known Donovan song at all. And it's all about seals and the Arctic. And at the end of the song, there's this fade out, and they have this tape recording of sounds from the Arctic, seagulls and waves lapping and things like that, maybe even a few seals in the background. And then there's this acoustic guitar, and Donovan also sings a wordless sort of refrain as it fades out. And I remember being absolutely fascinated by this fade out and thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if you had a whole album of that kind of music, just instrumental and the sound effects? And of course, that is what ambient music is all about. It's instrumental music, it's sound effects, and wordless vocals. So it was all there. And that was probably my first introduction to ambient music through Donovan.
Wow, good for you, man. What a story, man. And you knew back then that you liked that type of music as opposed to, all the kids, we are about the same age, would have loved to see, I don't know, the Rolling Stone or the Genesis of this world, the Pink Floyd, the Led Zeppelin, all the bands were very popular, in the 70s and 80s, around the time. Or you knew back then that you were like a quiet kid, keep it to yourself, introvert, and you like kind of, landscape, electronic music, the Tangerine Dream or the world, the Peter Bauman of the world versus rock and roll, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously rock music was cool back then. I don't know what's cool now, R&B or hip hop or whatever it is. It was all the same. It was just, the cult of the personality and so on, and rebelliousness, whether it's Justin Bieber or Mick Jagger, it's all the same. Bob Dylan was the name I was trying to think of earlier. That's who Donovan was compared to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, but I remember we had British bands. So there was The Sweet, famous for their song Ballroom Blitz. And, and I would try to like that music, and it would be very aggressive, lots of testosterone and so on, but it didn't really interest me. And I remember my older brother brought home an album of Uriah Heep, Wizards and Demons, I think it was called. And that's got the song, is it The Wizard? He was the wizard of 1,000 kings. And it's quite a slow, quiet track. And I remember thinking, wow, this is really interesting. It's going somewhere. It's evocative. It's not just hard rock. And I remember also hearing and not knowing at all what it was, Pink Floyd's Us and Them, which is just those echoes, us, and them. Or is that how it goes? Something, us, me and you. I don't know. I can't even remember the lyrics. Not a Pink Floyd follower, but whatever it is. Hearing those things and thinking, wow, that's different. And that was something you didn't hear on the radio very often at all. So, yeah, it was a long time before I discovered the music of Brian Eno. And I only discovered him through David Bowie, because I quite liked some of the things David Bowie was doing. And we're talking about me being 16, 17 years old. And Brian Eno was sort of introducing David Bowie to this ambient sound. And side 2 of Heroes and side 2 of Low, the 2 albums, they're ambient. And I was thinking, wow, it'd be nice to make that kind of music, one day. And maybe even, as a career, it only took about 40 years, but yeah.
Yeah. So you went for it. So eventually you finished high school, you decided to go to college. I don't know if you knew back then that probably you didn't know that at the time if music would be an important part of your life, but as a hobby, as a part-time job, trying to pick up girls versus becoming a full-time musician. Or any pressure in your family? Hey, forget about music. Your kind of music is very weird. Go to college, find a girl, get married, or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tried to be sensible. So I studied Forestry Science at university, because that was the easiest subject for me. Botany and so on was very, very, very easy. So I thought I'd study it with no real thought to a career, but I thought, well, I can pass these, I can get reasonable grades at university doing this. I so wish I'd studied a language instead. I wish I'd, because a language you keep for life. The science I learned in the 1980s is completely out of date now. And there wasn't, but I remember buying a synthesizer when I was about 21, and it was very expensive. And it wasn't this synthesizer, it was an earlier one. And I realized, I've bought the wrong synthesizer for me. It didn't suit what I was doing. And my father was just shaking his head saying, Rudy, if you're going to do music, you've got to go and do a degree in music. You've got to study it. And I was thinking, no, I don't want to do conventional music. I want to do something else. And me saying, look, I'm just going to do this as a hobby, but I'm going to spend quite a bit of time doing it. Because, he was a painter. He would paint in the weekends, and the paintings were quite good. He sold some of them. And, everyone's got to have a hobby. So I had this hobby making music. And I think a lot of people would look at me, a lot of my friends would say, gosh, Rudy, you're taking this hobby very seriously. And I said, yeah, well, I want to take it as far as it will go. And I didn't really admit that I would like to do it full time, because, that's sort of arrogant. It's like saying, I'm going to be a concert pianist, or I'm going to be a painter full time. It's a dream that not many people can achieve. And for so long, I eventually started making music, getting record deals, but it was only sort of $1,000 if you were lucky for your record. That's as much as you would make. The equipment cost more than the actual royalties. There was just no money in it at all. And I thought, oh well, that's that. I've put out some albums. I'm happy with them. And the first album that went on a CD was in the year 2000. Was a pressed CD, The Healing Lake, and it was. I got $1,000 for that up front, and that was it. Didn't hear any more for 20 years. But now in recent years, that music and other music that I've done is being used in sleep compilations. And it's got to a point now that the royalties from those sleep compilations, I don't need to work anymore. And that's I think, surely there's some mistake here. They must have meant Trudy and not Rudy. It's not me. It can't possibly be me and my silly little bits of widdly ambient music. So it's it's the thing is, it's not the cult of personality like pop music was. The people listening to my music, they don't know who I am, and they're not even awake when they're listening to my music. They're not actually hearing my music. So it's this kind of weird thing of and also it's music written 20 years ago. I'm still making music now that's very similar, but it's music from 20 years ago that is letting me not have to work anymore. And it's a very strange situation.
But good for you, man. Well, remember that back in I don't know, in the 90s, year 2000, kind of meditation became popular and yoga was popular. Many yoga studios, exercise, look at your life, do introspection. So that and sleep studies, like you mentioned, so the term new age became popular. So became a market for you guys,
Yes and no. You probably and many of our viewers here will remember how there were these bins full of new age music everywhere in shops.
Yep.
And the music, I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, but it wasn't very good.
Yeah,
and
that's okay.
People would buy this music, they would take it home, put it on a CD player and go, that's not very good. And they thought, well, if that's what new age music is, then I'm having nothing of it. And it really ruined the whole idea of new age music. And it gave ambient music and atmospheric music, whatever it is, a bad name. So I think it did more harm than good, really.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if it had just been this sort of alternative kind of stuff, and it is now. It is sort of this alternative weird stuff that some people get and some people don't, and it's for a lot of people it's their little secret, and that's, I think, the nice thing about it. It's we are listening to some music that you've never even dreamed of, you've never even heard, and that's what it is.
Yeah, okay, got it. So eventually, right, so you have your first CD. Well, before the CD, quite sure you have stuff on cassette, right? You were recording, or you end up going to studios, or back in the day, you needed to record, that somewhere, not like right now, like, your computer and this computer, we can do everything ourselves. We can become, producer, mixer, we put it there, we create, send it to something. So it's a one-man show. Back in, 30 years ago, it wasn't the case, right? You need to go somewhere, right? And
for me, yes, because I just had the two synthesizers, the computer, and once you've recorded on the computer, once you've got everything ready, you just press play, and you'd record on a little DAT recorder, on a little digital tape recorder.
Yeah,
and that recorder cost me about $800 for a little DAT Walkman, but it was CD quality. It was the quality of a CD, and that was, when was that? 1990, something like that. And it'd be on the DAT, and then from that you could make a little compilation on the DAT recorder and record it onto a cassette. And I did put out maybe 100 cassettes at one stage. I think I gave them away mainly, and I gave them to shops. The shops sold them, but I never got the money. I think that's how it worked. and then but still, people 10 years later would come to me with these cassettes, say, "Look, I've got one of your original cassettes." But and you could actually record on a DAT and then send it away to a CD pressing plant. Or what I did is I think it was by the end of the 1990s that I'd finally got my compositional skills to a quality that I was happy with the music. And I would by that stage, I was working in a studio which had Pro Tools. I was a sound engineer in television.
Yeah.
So in my spare time, I could use the Pro Tools system, but it was just to line up what I'd recorded at home. So they were just stereo tracks from home. You'd cut and line them up, make a CDR, a recordable CD. And in those days, a recordable CD, you had to hire a CD recorder, bring it in, and then record and then press the track IDs for track 2, track 3. You had to get it at the right time. You had to press a button while it was recording live on the tape onto the CD. And then I sent the CD away to John Mark. He passed away 2 years ago, but he'd started a record label called White Cloud here in New Zealand, and it was for new age music. And it was his own music and other people's music, but I sent him the CDR, and he rang me up and said, "Rudy, we want to put this out." And yeah, it's $1,000 up front. And he said, "And I can pretty much guarantee you won't make any money out of this." And I said, "That's okay." And he said, "Well, I'm glad to hear you've got a sensible attitude, because so many people think they're going to make money from this." And I said, "Yeah, no, I know there's no money in it." But it was, I was lucky in that it was very simple just to record the keyboards onto a 2-track DAT recorder, a digital tape recorder.
Good for you, man. Were you at the time like a freelancer, and were you creating music for for television, commercial? Because some of the people that they do that kind of thing, the 20-second spot for a TV ad of something or something else, right?
Absolutely. I do music for little corporate videos, like induction videos, like welcome to our company, here in this factory we make whatever, and we want you to be safe, and this is your employment, and so on. I do those kind of soundtracks for that. I do soundtracks for some really low budget television commercials. And I also did sound effects for television commercials, because back in those days, before Pro Tools, you would edit it on videotape, and you'd have 2 audio tracks on the videotape, which you could then replace. And I would make the sound effects for 25% off this weekend only, whoosh, and the graphic, I'd make the whoosh sounds. So, and I'd charge $25 for every whoosh.
For you,
So I did that kind of thing, but I learned early on that the music I wanted to make was not really the music for films and documentaries, but I did music for wildlife documentaries, and I did music for some short films and for television commercials, but not very much. And it was always a struggle for me. It wasn't easy. It didn't come naturally to me. And I realized, no, I just want to do my own thing. And I wanted to be mysterious. When I turn the keyboard on in the morning, I don't know what I'm going to make. I'm just going to find and see what happens. And of course, you can't write music for television commercials by, let's see what happens. You've got to be following a formula.
Sure, absolutely. And eventually, how you end up, meeting the folks of Spotted Peccary, and then, join the record label? You knew who they were, or was it popular down there in New Zealand?
Not really. I mean, in New Zealand, the record shops, they would have Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis, Tangerine Dream, and a little bit of Brian Eno. And that was it for electronic music. Hope you like it. And I did discover Michael Stearns, and I discovered Hearts of Space. And I knew someone, a guy called Steve McDonald, and he had put out an album on Hearts of Space, an album of Celtic music. and he said, "Oh yes, I've got the contact. I can set you up for this, Rudy." I thought, "Oh wow, I can get on Hearts of Space." And so I hadn't had my album finished yet, and so I worked on that for another year or so, and then it was finished. And then I contacted Steve McDonald's contacts, and I said, I want to submit this album to Hearts of Space." And they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're too late. We don't have that relationship with Hearts of Space anymore. We can't help you with getting your CD to them, your album to them." And I thought, and I'd been told that Hearts of Space would receive so many demos every day, and they would just throw them in the dumpster out the back. So I knew, well, there's no point in sending it to Hearts of Space.
Yeah.
So I looked around, and I found Groove, a Dutch label. No, that's not true. I found White Cloud, and I put out an album of new age music with White Cloud, The Healing Lake. But then White Cloud sort of went into recession. They went quiet. And so I went with a Dutch label, Groove, and I spent about 3 or 4 years doing music in the style of Tangerine Dream, that Berlin school music, doing, 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 that kind of stuff. And I realized that there were other people doing it far better than I was. I was not happy with the music I was doing there. And so I started looking at North American labels, and there was Miramar, who released John Serry's music, and Tangerine Dream as well. But they went bankrupt, so there's no point in getting in touch with them. And then I thought, well, maybe I found a record label in the United States, and I won't mention their name, and I got in touch with them, and they said, we're happy to release your music, and waited about a year. And then I contacted them and said, "So what's going to happen with this album?" And they said, "Oh, sorry, no, we don't want to release it after all. We don't think it's releasable." And I thought, "Oh, great. I just waited a year for you to tell me this." So then I found a little record label called Lotus Spike. And Lotus Spike, run by 3 guys just from their spare bedrooms, they released an album called Moonwater and Desert Realms. And it was the Desert Realms album that had been rejected earlier. And funnily enough, Desert Realms ended up selling through that record label's shop, the one that had rejected it. They ended up selling it. And it was one of their best sellers at the time. And eventually, Lotus Spike got bought out by Spotted Peccary. And I ended up with Spotted Peccary by default. It was just by chance, really. And Spotted Peccary have been very good. They've done good distribution, especially in the United States, and I can't really complain. And we've got 3 albums waiting to come out. They're finished, and the plan is next March, next Christmas, and then the following March. At the moment, I'm having a little bit of a debate with them about whether we should have the downloads for free, because I think that we're not making much money from the record sales. We're making money from the third-party streaming. So why not just get the music out there? So that's a little bit of a debate I'm having at the moment, and we'll see what happens. But it'd be nice to have the albums for free. Why not? Because we're not making any money from selling the albums.
Even if the music were to be on Bandcamp, where you get 90 cents of the dollar, people don't buy. I end up buying a lot of music for Bandcamp. Of course, in Spotify, you need to have like 1 million hits to get a check for $10 or something, right? So it's not.
I've got a friend who does dance music, trance and dance, I suppose, and he's got twice as many hits on Spotify as I do. My hits are quite good, but he's got sort of hits like what Michael Stearns would have, or something like that. And he was saying that the royalties he gets from Spotify is not enough to pay for his children's premium Spotify account. That's how small the royalties are there. So why are we trying to sell CDs? If people want to have CDs, they've got to pay for the pressing of the CD. But why don't we just distribute the stuff, the actual albums for free as downloads? I don't understand why we are charging for them, because the amount of money we make from the downloads is not very much, and it would be just so much nicer if everyone could listen to it, and then they would actually maybe start following it. And the third-party streaming on other sites, not Spotify, would keep us all employed.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, in Bandcamp, they say something, name your own price, and people, pay $5, $3, $10, and everything in between, and it helps out if you end up selling several a week. It's a little bit of money. It's not, you would not pay a mortgage or a car payment, but hey, a little something help out to to pay some bills or something. Yeah. Although you do it because you love the music, no, because it's not a lucrative field, right? So.
But I think a lot of people, and I'm talking about myself, my grey hair and all that, we are a little bit nervous about buying online because what's happening to my credit card details? And so even if it is just $1 on Bandcamp, that's $1 too much, because it means I'm going to have to give my credit card details to Bandcamp, or I'm going to have to set up a PayPal account. People, and all that complication, and the risk, or the perceived risk. So if we just have it's free, guys. You don't need put your credit card away. You'd get so much more enthusiasm, I think.
Yeah, no, I see it, but I was very lucky that Spotted Peccary ended up sending me your latest album, which is very, very good, man. Very, very good. Not only the quality, we'll talk about the music, but the booklet that come inside, and the design, and the drawing, and very, very well put together, man. I mean, as if the people in Spotted Peccary, well, I know they really care and they put a lot of effort, although they don't make any money, Somebody to design that, the cover, and the text, the font that they use inside. Very, very well done. Very well run company. So.
Yeah, no, I'm pleased with that. And while Spotted Peccary will keep on making CDs, I'll stay with them. Because CDs, not many people listen to CDs. But people of our age, we still buy CDs.
Yeah.
And or a lot of us do. And the plan is one of the next albums, because there's a CD called Moonwater that came out back early in 20 years ago, and it's now sold out, of course. But I want to make a free CD bound in with with one of the next albums. So if you buy the new CD, you also get a repressing of Moonwater. And it would only cost a couple of $100, and I'll pay for that myself. A couple of $100, and it'll be sort of, people will be able to buy the new CD plus the old one if they missed out on Moonwater first time around. So I think, a lot of people, there's that sort of that old-fashioned relationship with music, and I want to encourage that, So yeah. So the plan is, there's going to be a double album, but for the price of a single album, coming out in the next year, maybe next Christmas. We'll have Moonwater as a free pressing.
What about CDs? Is a possibility of releasing that on vinyl as well, or
sorry?
What about releasing that on vinyl as well? No, just CD format. No?
Um, maybe. I have yet to find anyone. I've yet to walk into a lounge or a living room and see a record player. I know there are
Really?
some out there.
Yeah,
Um,
I do. I'm one of them.
but you've got a record player?
Of course, several.
Okay.
One in
Yeah,
every room.
maybe vinyl. No, we haven't had that conversation, so it's possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, people buy, man. This is very good. How long did it take for you to put this together end to end? Because it isn't like a pop song which is 3-4 minutes long, right? Here you have tracks that are 7 minutes, 6 minutes, almost 9 minutes. It's a lot of work to put a cohesive album, and where
Yeah,
it's with flow and where you're happy with it and so on and so forth. So
that was my because it was created several years ago. As you probably understand, we're behind, and it's always the way with making music. You
yeah,
make music, and then it takes a year or more for it to come out.
yeah.
So that record came out March this year. I think I created it 2 years earlier. It took 2 years
Wow.
to get to that point. Yeah, it takes time, and it would take me about a year to make, because back then I was still working full time. I was working in a newspaper.
Yeah.
I'd worked in television for a long time, decades, about 30 years. And
Hmm.
then television kind of got quiet. There was less work there. And eventually there were four of us working as a team, making television programs. And there weren't any television programs to make anymore. There was enough work there for one person. So of the four of us, one of us quit and he drank himself to death within a year. The two others stayed on and worked half time each. And I went down the road and worked at a newspaper making videos for them for minimum wage. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And it was hard work and not well paid. It really felt like the end of the world for me. And in my spare time, I was starting to make music. What happened was we had lockdown all across the world, here
Yeah.
in New Zealand as well. And so the album before that, which is called As Dusk Becomes Night, that was created or started during lockdown. I thought, right, I'm going to try and write some music. And but I had to find free time in the weekends, maybe a day off during the week here and there, or an evening, and try and create music. So it will take a year to do an album. And that album, A Walk in the Shadow Garden, is the last one I created while working full time. So it'll take a year. You just have to find a bit of time in the weekends. And you'd have weeks, or I would have weeks, where I'd work on things and nothing good would come out of it. You'd listen to the playback the next day and go, well, that wasn't very good, was it? And that's the thing, because I'm doing things that are mysterious and magical for me. It was always a mystery. So it's I never know where things are going to go when I start playing around on the keyboard and what idea will spark something else. So it does take a long time. This year, in the last 2 years, I've created 3 albums. So it's been much quicker. And I thought, well, I'll try and create a 4th one between now and Christmas. And it's going to be a tribute to John Mark. And I'm 2 weeks in, and I've created about 10 tracks, and they're all no good. But that's the way it is. It takes a while, and you have to realize, okay, just be patient, and hopefully something will come along. We'll see.
Where can come from? You live in a beautiful country, which I've never been there, but you go outside, you see the water, the mountains, and you go for a walk in the morning at night, it's quiet, peaceful, the trees, the leaves. Where, how you go about it, creating new music? Is the impression come from the outdoors pretty much, or not necessarily?
Not really. I think going outside does recharge my batteries, I suppose, if I go out and go for a walk in the woods. But it doesn't
Yeah,
really inspire me. I'm not going to write, oh, here's a babbling brook and here's some twittering birds. I'm not going
yeah,
to do that.
no,
It's not programmatic. It's not like Peer Gynt, the Peer Gynt suite, here come the trolls. It's not that kind of music. And I remember having a friend who had a house that overlooked a harbour, and it was a beautiful view. And he was away on holiday. So I took my keyboards and my computer and I set up in his lounge with this beautiful view and wrote some music. And it sounded great with the view. But when you took it away, when you didn't have the view, the music wasn't very good. And that's, I think, the thing. It's much better just to write facing a blank wall almost. I think it was Robert Louis Stevenson who wrote Treasure Island. And he would write facing a blank wall so he wouldn't be distracted. And I do normally have a view out of a window or something like that, but it's just some trees. It's just the my garden. It's my lifestyle and the music. I don't really see the marriage. A lot of people want to see the marriage, and if that relationship, and if they
yeah,
want to see that relationship, that's fine. But I don't think there is a very strong one there at all, really.
yeah. I mean, you need to do what it works for you, right? So, like you say, some famous writers need the outdoor, need to walk for go clear their mind, their head before they get a cup of coffee. Other people they can work, a Nobel Prize novel in a room with no windows. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have that kind of talent. I like I say before, I'm not a musician. I don't know how to play music or any instrument at all. I like to listen to music. I've been listening to music for I don't know 2 hours a day for the last 50 years. So I'm a consumer of your product. So and it's we live in crazy times, man. Whether you like that country, or whether it's Ukraine, against Russia, or Israel against Palestine, or this or that. We live in crazy time as a human society, and maybe we're doomed. Maybe this coming to an end, as a human, especially human civilization. And music is love, music is healing, and you know, uh,
mm.
at least has
Yeah.
given me a lot of satisfaction in my life.
Um, they're in the Bible. It says when
Mhm.
you hear of wars in distant countries, you know that the end times are coming. And well, we do hear about war now in distant countries because
Mm.
of the media. It's there on our screens. We can go
Yeah.
doom scrolling all day long,
Mm.
looking at tragedies, people being swept out to sea, thousands of people being swept out to sea in Libya, people living in and killed and being homeless in the earthquake in Morocco, another earthquake in Afghanistan. It's everywhere. Terrible news. But I think when you look back at history, there's been terrible news for a very long time, really. It's just more disseminated now. I mean, my parents, they lived through World War II. They lived through the concentration camps. My mother was in a concentration camp as a teenage girl. And, that's the end of the world. And if you look back in history, around the year 1000, the Vikings were invading Britain, and it was just like it was the end of the world if you were in Lindisfarne or anywhere in the United Kingdom with the Vikings attacking. But the Vikings themselves were being attacked by the Black Plague. And in Iceland alone, half the population was killed by the Black Plague. But at the same time, also around the year 1000, the Bulgarians were invading Constantinople. And King Basil, Emperor Basil of Constantinople, got so sick of the Bulgarians invading, he caught 10,000 soldiers and blinded them. One in every 100 was only blinded in one eye to lead the other 100 back to Bulgaria. 10,000 able-bodied men blinded overnight. There's been terrible things throughout history. And it's always going to be terrible things. While you've got humanity, I'm sorry to say it, you've got unhappiness as well. And I do feel quite bad living in New Zealand, and maybe a lot of people in the United States can feel the same way, of the privileged life we have. We've
Absolutely
got everything, and nothing's a worry. But, one thing that is certain is that we're all going to die, and we're all going to face that fear of the unknown and the eternal sleep that comes. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Any possibility of you doing a little bit of touring, in your country or somewhere else, or coming to the United States, or for people to listen to your music live, which for me is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I did do a tour of the United States back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I played at the Gatherings in Philadelphia with Chuck Manziel.
Yeah.
And Radio Massacre International also played the following month. And Jeff Pierce had played the month earlier, I think. This was 2002. I did a number of concerts throughout the United States, and I wasn't very happy with it. They were okay. And I often think, because I'll spend a lot of time just warming up, relaxing, getting into a mindset before I start composing. I'll just play for an hour and I'll improvise and do all kinds of things. And I sometimes think, gosh, Rudy, you should go out on a tour again and do that. But then I think, no, I like the careful layering that you can do with an album, and you lose all that care and consideration when you're playing live, because it's semi-improvised, and you lose all that, and it becomes, I don't know, I'm just not happy with it. But if you want to hear what I did live, there are 2 albums. There's one which you can still get on CD even. It's called Concerts in the USA. And there's another one called Concerts in New Zealand. If you want to hear me live, listen to those albums. I don't think I'm gonna play live anymore. The strongest feeling I remember from this, the strongest memory I have, is 5 minutes into the concert, I think, I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't like having everyone watching. It's a little bit like you're trying to write something on a computer or do something on a computer with a mouse, and people are looking over your shoulder at you. You go, excuse me, I'm trying to just do this. It's no fun at all. It's not for me. No, it's not.
No, that's okay. Plus, it's very expensive. You're not going to make any money, right? And you need to have, at least for touring musicians, coming from outside the US, you need to get like a work visa, permit visa, an entry fee, whatever it's called, to play here. Even if you make a $1 or $1 million or something in between, and so people don't do it, But that's okay. That's okay. But go ahead.
I'm just going to plug my computer in. I realize I'm running on the battery, and I'm not quite sure how much longer it's going to last. Hang on.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, plug it in. Don't worry. Sorry, you're good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good that you're working with Spotted Peccary, which is a very well-run company. You're producing your music, and hopefully, I don't know if you have an interest or they have an interest or re-releasing all your music or creating like a best of or a compilation of to put the music out there, not for the money, it's just for the right thing
Yeah,
to do, I suppose, if you're a musician, right? So
yeah. Well, if you go to Spotted Peccary, you will see
yeah,
most of my music. I mean, it's one, two, three, 8 albums, I think, with Spotted Peccary,
yeah,
and there are some other ones. We could maybe have a relationship with White Cloud and have the Healing Lake also sold through Spotted Peccary.
yeah,
Um, I think, yeah, we need to maybe do something about that. I mean, like I said, we're going to put Moon Water out. I'm going to make sure this happens. It's going to be out on a CD again, so people
cool.
can buy that if they want to.
Cool.
You can still buy most of the CDs. I think Desert Realms is sold out now, maybe. But all the other ones are still there. And if you want to listen to my Tangerine Dream type music, there's 5 albums on Groove in the Netherlands. I got a royalty check from them the other day for a year, 30 euros.
So much.
Yeah, we're not in it for the money. Yeah, but yeah, those albums are still available. I think there are a lot of them they're repressed as CDRs. They're not pressed at all. They're just burned
Yeah,
CDRs.
yeah,
And you can download them. I'm not totally proud of my Tangerine Dream type music, the sequencer sketches they were called. I would rather, because I see that Groove now have them on Bandcamp, and that's a problem on Bandcamp, and I don't know why it's like that. There is Spotted Peccary's releases of my music on Bandcamp. There is 2 albums from me, concerts in New Zealand and Sub-Antarctica, an early album. That's on Bandcamp as a separate thing. And then there's Grooves albums of mine on Bandcamp, and they're totally in different places. And I don't know how you get them together. But in some ways, I don't really want them together because I think a lot of people want to just hear my ambient music, and I don't want them to accidentally buy a CD and they hear this and they're going, well, that's not what I wanted to listen to. So I do kind of want to keep things separate, I think, to compartmentalize. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's fine. Some people like to, if they like a particular artist, they want to buy everything from him or her, right? Whether it's prior or before, or the early days, or where they didn't master the instrument or whatever. Some people like they're willing to pay $1. Like I say, in Bandcamp you have the opportunity to say name your own price. Some people pay $1, some people pay 10. They do it. It helps out a little bit. And as you say before, you are not for the money. You do it because you love the stuff and you do well, man. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, the thing is, actually, maybe I shouldn't announce this, but if people bother to email me, and a lot of people don't, I'll offer them a free CD, and it's a free CD, free postage, and it'll be autographed. And 1 or 2 people, I've actually sent them the whole catalog. That's a dozen. There's what is it, 15 albums. I'm not going to do that for everyone. I'm not promising that, but I will certainly. At the moment, I'm happy to give out a free CD to anyone who wants one. That might change, but at the moment,
well, but at least they should pay the postage, right? I mean, if you write the CDR is like I don't know, 10 cents or 20 cents there, but the postage for Australia to, I'm sorry, for New Zealand to, I don't know, Latin America or to the United States, it's expensive, it's whatever, $10, $15 that
No,
more, I don't
no,
know.
no. The thing is, yes and no.
Yeah.
Spotted Peccary say they have a lot of trouble now sending to Europe. And
Really?
Bert Strollenberg, who does interviews in Holland, he's been waiting 2 months for that album that you were showing,
Yep.
A Walk in the Shadow Garden, to arrive. He's been waiting 2 months for that, and it's very expensive. But in New Zealand, there is this workaround that if you take the CD out of its case or have it just in a very slim case,
Oh,
it
yeah,
can
yeah.
go as a letter. And that only costs me about $3 US postage.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So the thing is, in the US, you can't send it as a letter because it is not flexible. But in New
Right.
Zealand, the rules are you can send a rigid letter as long as it's thin enough. It's got to be half a centimeter. And so, I'll take the CD out of its case if it's a proper jewel case, or if it's those little slim packages that Spotted Peccary make, just go straight in an envelope.
Oh, which is beautiful. Yeah. Well, right now.
And I just put the stamps on top. And also, I buy the stamps because I'm Dutch. My parents were Dutch. So I buy the stamps at half price. There is a stamp shop, and they buy up old stamp collections. And there's all these stamps in there, and they're not actually worth anything. But there is, amongst that collection, there are 1 or 2 valuable stamps, a penny black or something like that. So they pay $1,000 or something for this collection. And they've got all these stamps that are not used, they're unfranked, but they need to get rid of them. So they sell them to me at 60% of face value. So almost half price. So that $3 suddenly becomes about $1.70 to stick the stamps on the and they're very colourful stamps too. I've got ones of the marriage of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Those kind of commemorative stamps. The stamps from the 1980s and 1990s, Christmas stamps, all kinds of weird things.
People might be going crazy in your country for the rugby final, or I don't know. Some people like the kind of sport. I do, but some people don't. But it's great for a country to whether you end up winning or losing or just competing. Chile, my country, ended up qualifying, but they didn't do well. This is the first time that they have arrived to Olympiad and the Olympics or the World Cup, I should have said, in rugby, and just being selected, right? And earning the qualifying. It's a big deal. Whether they didn't do that well, but it's not that bad, So as opposed to other countries like Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, and actually Argentina, they're well known for rugby players. So for me, it was great to see a couple games, and
I'm sorry, Claudio, but someone asked me recently. I was at a wedding, wedding dinner, and the person next to me said, "So Rudy, do you follow the rugby?" And I said, "No," and he said, "Oh, the cricket then?" And I said, "No. For me, I like to go out walking in the mountains. I like to do my own thing. I like to go swimming, cycling, hiking. It's my personal thing. I climbed that mountain. I walked down that river. I did my own thing. And I worked in television for such a long time. I did sound engineering. I also did camera work. So I'd have to film these famous rugby players, these heroes. Heroes? Well, 50% of New Zealanders can never be a rugby player or an All Black because they're female. It's men only. I mean, there are women's teams, but you don't hear about them. So
Sure.
why is it that the sports teams are always men? And why is it that when they play and they're about to kick a goal, the crowd goes, boo, boo? What is that all about? All that jeering, and why all those fights afterwards? They all
Oh yeah.
go into town, they get drunk, they start punching people just because their team lost. They start smashing windows. What the hell? And why is it? Why are these people sitting there drinking their beer, eating their chips, watching people play a game? They're not
Yeah.
doing any exercise at all. And
No,
we spend so much
yeah.
money. The government spends so much money funding elite sports, and people just watch it. It's not good for the people's physical well-being at all.
They will, right, the people, the doers, right, the people that would like to go for a walk or for a swim or cycle or whatever. But in your country, you don't even need to belong to a gym, right? Every day you get to exercise, right? And go for a walk every day, 3 miles one way and 3 miles back way, or swimming or going to a lake, or taking, going for a walk and camping and hiking and taking pictures or whatever, so it's a beautiful, yeah. But some people, crazy people all over the world. Plus it's not, rugby is not like tennis, right? You play for 3 hours, you're fine, and you can take a shower and you're okay. But in rugby and American football here in the United States, they go after one another, and you can, you can really get hurt, and you get hurt many times,
Oh yeah. We have the same problem with concussion injuries.
Oh yeah.
And also they used to have a lot of broken backs. People would break their neck and so on in rugby. And I don't know, it's just my parents didn't play rugby, so I don't play rugby. It's just like, are you going to vote Democrat or Republican? And we're not going to talk about politics, but you vote what your parents voted. And,
sure, no, understand.
And it's just the way you are. I've got friends that vote the equivalent of Democrats, and I've got friends that vote the equivalent of Republicans, and we're still friends. But
sure,
you are what how your parents brought you up normally. And and your views on what is good and what is worthwhile. Is reading a book worthwhile, or should you be watching a movie? It's that kind of thing. That those lifestyle choices.
Absolutely,
we don't have very much control over that.
Yeah, absolutely, no, absolutely. But people, like we say before, music has given a lot of satisfaction in this world, and we want to keep it that way. You keep on releasing your good music, man, whether you make any money or not, and giving stuff away to make some people, not everybody, in the world can afford to buy music or go to concert. I'm very lucky because where I live, I'm able to see a lot of shows, and I have a well-paying job, so I cannot complain. So I'm very happy that to keep on buying music. I buy a lot of music, keep on buying a lot of vinyl, and going to concerts, so I'm very happy, and I will continue doing the thing that I like, and music is one of them. So it's a hobby, a part-time job. I don't know.
Yeah, thanks.
But it was.
Yeah. Do you get out at all, Claudio? Do you go out for a walk?
Yeah, every day I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The doctor sent me to. I stopped losing weight. Take a look at my cholesterol and sugar, so I'm good shape. I live where I live here. The woods not that far, like a 10-minute walk. I go to a nice place where you can walk around and do tree, and go to a swimming pool. I'm going one tonight. For you, it's in the morning there. Here is 5 p.m. So I will go around 6 o'clock for a swim and jacuzzi, that kind of stuff to relax me. So, and then tomorrow start working again.
Yeah.
Oh, Okay, Rudy, it was very nice talking to you, man. Good luck to you. Thank you again for your time, man. This is the album. Buy it. It's a Spotted Peccary, great record label. It's a beautiful album, man. You know, you can, whether you go for a walk or listen in the car or, you know, in the background or whatever you do. It's very good music. So
Yep. Yep. No worries. Thank you. And okay, we're finished recording now, I presume. I can send you some CDs if you want.
yeah, I'm still recording, but yeah, that will be, I will send you a separate email that you can, but let me pay for at least for the board.
No. No one's allowed to pay.
Okay, thank you very much again, Rudy. Have a great.
Thanks, Claudio. Take care.
Keep on drinking the Chilean wine that you like.
Sorry?
Keep on drinking the Chilean wine that you like.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Remember?
Actually, the truth is 1 month sober.
Yeah.
So this is bitters, lemon, lime, and bitters.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic.
That's
and
good.
And that's that I was drinking a bottle a day, and I've done that, I realized, for 30 years, drinking a bottle each day.
No,
and I
that's
think
not
that's
good.
not good. So now I've been 1 month, no
Good
wine.
for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, Rudy.
Yeah.